All right, Mafia. Just after the Thanksgiving holiday concluded, we have some big news on the injury front for your Buffalo Bills, as well as a potential big-time roster move that they made on Black Friday as well. You're watching the Bills Breakdown by Chat Sports. I am your host, Tyler Smith. And if you want free, informative, entertaining Bills content just like this, go down below and hit that subscribe button because we upload free Bills videos every single day, whether we're in the downtown Dallas studios with all the graphics or in my humble abode here in the Hudson Valley. When we hear Bills news, we're going to bring it to you. And if you guys want to get a win over the Steelers this week, go down below, hit that like button as well. All right, on the injury front for Buffalo, let's not sugarcoat it. Things are bad. Following Week 12's game against the Houston Texans, where Josh Allen was sacked a career high 8 times. A very ferocious Houston defensive line, but the Bills tackles got pretty banged up in that game. We saw Spencer Brown have to leave early on in the fourth quarter. He was bandaged up and down with all these paddings and stuff. His shoulder was absolutely demolished in that game. And then Dion Dawkins was being evaluated for concussion stuff. And it is now revealed that the Bills will be without both starting tackles in this game, just 1 week after Josh Allen took the most sacks of his NFL career and ahead of the game against maybe the league's best pass rusher in TJ Watt. So this is bad news all around for the Buffalo Bills here. Spencer Brown was, according to Sean McDermott, a candidate potentially for injured reserve here, but that move was not made because the Bills did put a guy on IR earlier today. We'll get into that in just a moment. So I guess some semblance of good news, a sliver of hope for Spencer Brown here that he won't have to go on injured reserve, but Dion Dawkins dealing with a concussion as well. And now you're going to see Ryan Vandermark, the Bills swing tackle, who had to get subbed in for Spencer Brown late in that Houston game, as well as Chase Lunt, who we haven't seen a ton of really at all so far this season. He was dealing with injuries. He was kind of stashed on IR for a good portion of the beginning of this season, and now he looks like he'll be vaulted into a starting role against an equally, if not even better, Pittsburgh Steelers pass rushing tandem of TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and they got a couple of dogs on the interior there as well. So the Bills have their work cut out for them this week on the offensive end. You still have Connor McGovern in there, but he was getting banged up in that Houston game. Osiris Torrance was getting banged up in that Houston game. Looks like David Edwards is healthy, but man, this Bills offensive line that is regarded as one of the best in all of football is seriously taking a couple notches down this week against a pretty formidable opponent and a desperate opponent at that in the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're 6-5. If they go out there and beat you this week, they jump you in the AFC playoff picture, and you are in the hunt graphic at this point. The Bills got some good news on the playoff front with the Kansas City Chiefs loss to the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, as well as the Baltimore Ravens loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'm sure a lot of Bills fans were clapping it up for the Bengals once again as they try to kind of formulate a playoff push here. But we got to look ahead to what we can control in front of us, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And there's not a lot is left in the Bills' control here with these two injuries to the offensive line. So not good news there. Hopefully they can hold up. Hopefully Joe Brady goes out there and sends an additional blocker in a lot of these situations. That's something we did not see against the Houston Texans in Week 12. Too often, Josh was being screamed at with 4 rushers, and Joe Brady would do nothing to put an additional blocker on the line of scrimmage, additional offensive lineman, a Jackson Hawes or somebody out there close to the LOS. There needs to be better adjustments there, and I think that will come this week against Pittsburgh. But if you guys want the Bills to be healthy for this game, as healthy as can be, because there's more injuries to discuss in just a moment, go down below, hit that thumbs up icon, and like today's video. The Bills also have Josh Palmer as a DNP on Friday after being limited earlier in the practice week. Yeah, that's bad news. If you are kind of practicing and then you end up suddenly not practicing late in the week, that's not good and does not bode well for your availability on Sunday. So the Bills going to be potentially down Josh Palmer here. Terell Bernard was also ruled out with this game. Remember, he took the elbow or the face mask to the elbow. A little friendly fire from Matt Milano when trying to make a tackle last week. So some bad news there. But to be honest with you guys, Terell Bernard is kind of underwhelmed so far this year. He had his best game, I believe, against Tampa Bay a couple of weeks ago. I think that was the one they were really vaulting his performance against. And aside from that, you kind of have been able to tell that Bernard's been dealing with a bunch of injuries here. He had the ankle going on. He had the side and shoulder thing going on. Now it's an elbow as well. So he's been banged up the entirety of this season. Hopefully we get a better version of him. They kind of seem to be keeping him in bubble wrap whenever he gets these kind of dinks and dunks throughout the campaign. So hopefully he can come back and just be available for that playoff push, because Matt Milano can't be the only guy out there. Quite frankly, that would just be a disaster. We're going to need to see more Shaq Thompson this week. Going to need to see more Dorian Williams this week. 2 guys who I thought played pretty well, all things considered last week, but Going to be down another guy in that linebacking room in Terell Bernard. All right, let's get to the big time and arguably the most frustrating thing that really has happened with the Buffalo Bills on the offensive side of the football. Because we know Brandon Beane has not put the proper resources around Josh Allen. But what we also know is that he has spent the money to try to put resources around Josh Allen. And one of those big-time investments was Curtis Samuel. And a player who a lot of Bills fans know it hasn't been able to get out there on the football field. And even when he does get out there and play, it's just not all that productive. Now, Curtis Samuel heads to injured reserve. So he will be missing at least 4 games here. And the Bills had to make a roster move subsequently. What they did was going out there and signed Gabe Davis to the 53-man roster. And that was inevitable. You had to think about it at some point with how big of a factor that Davis could play here for the rest of the season. The Bills weren't just going to waste 3 practice squad elevations on him and then just say, sayonara, you're not going to be with us for the rest of the year. So this was coming at some point, and now the Curtis Samuel injury just accelerates that process a little bit more. But I want to talk about Samuel here before we talk Davis, because this is just this is the climax of the frustration that we've had with Curtis Samuel here. He's getting paid a boatload of money, and he will never take a snap for the Buffalo Bills again. They will cut him either pre or post June 1, whatever saves more money on the books for them. But again, just a mismanagement of resources by Brandon Beane and this Bills front office here, giving the money to Curtis Samuel that they did. 20 games played in 2 seasons, and he had 38 catches, like 2 touchdowns over these 2 like. He's not able to get out there on the field, and when he is out on the field, he's just not that good. So I'm not going to say it's addition by subtraction, because the guy was never really even that active all the time anyway. Like, there wasn't a consistent 3-week stretch that we even saw Curtis Samuel for this season. So how could I even think of this as a productive loss? Like, it just... He wasn't going out there and doing anything. Hopefully the guy that they go out there and replaced him with in Gabe Davis has enough left in the tank to be able to go out there and make plays for this Buffalo Bills team. He hasn't done too much. He had 4 catches in the first game a couple of weeks ago. It was pretty non-existent in the Houston game in Week 12, but hopefully against a pretty weaker Pittsburgh secondary than they went up against in Houston's, he can get a little bit more separation. He can create a big play for Josh, because what we know about Josh Allen is that he feels comfortable throwing to Gabe Davis. And you cannot say that about a good portion of the wide receivers on this roster. Keon Coleman and Josh Allen do not have a connection whatsoever. Gabe Davis and Josh Allen do, so he needs to get a bulk of these snaps. He needs to be a focal point in this offense. No matter how good or bad that you think Gabe Davis is at this point in his career, or how hampered he is from his injury that he just recovered from, Josh Allen likes throwing the ball to him, so we are going to cater to number 17. Look, the Bills made a bunch of moves. They got Brandon Cooks in town. They got Shaq Lawson in town. I mean, they're definitely trying. As far as the names that are out there on the free agency market, they are trying their darndest to be able to go out there and get competitive players for this Bills roster and playoff push. But there is a lot still left to be done here through the home stretch of the season. Gotta beat Pittsburgh this week. We gotta think about the other guys that are surrounding the Bills in that playoff picture. Jacksonville, Los Angeles, Baltimore. It is insane. I mean, Miami can run the table. Their schedule's looking weak as hell. So there's a lot more work left to be done, but the Bills trying to do their best here, considering all the injuries that they do have, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, quite frankly. But the main takeaway from this video, man, it is bad news. The Buffalo Bills will be missing both of their starting tackles for this game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Going to be an uphill battle, but I believe in the Mafia to show out there in Pittsburgh on the road, and I believe in 17 whenever he steps out there on the football field. That will do it for today's edition of the Bills Breakdown. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel for free Bills content every single day. We'll see you guys in the next video. We will also be live this week for Bills versus Steelers, so see us all for that on Sunday. We'll see you guys then, and as always, let's go Buffalo.